Hey, what's up, guys? Rick Cordero, RunPlayBack. So today I'm going to talk about, can anybody be a director? And I think the answer is yes, anybody can be a director, but there's a couple of different things you got to think about before you embark in your filmmaking career. Now, when I first started, I didn't really think of myself as a director or call myself a director or even a filmmaker because I just thought it was kind of pretentious. I didn't go to film school, so I kind of lacked the confidence in my storytelling abilities, in my visual storytelling abilities. I also had a lot of friends that went to film school, and I just kind of felt intimidated by the knowledge that they learned, technically and even with like writing. So it took a while, even as I started doing more work professionally, it took a while for me to really consider myself a director. So one of the first projects that I did where I felt like, okay, I think I'm a director now, I think I'm a filmmaker, was a film called Ive Been Lost, which was also kind of a music video for this band called Plus Minus. And I did it with my creative partner, who's now my wife, Nancy Mitchell. And in the video, it's kind of this first person POV, and like I'm kind of playing this character in the video. So I think it was the first time where I was able to kind of be this character, even though I was behind the camera. I was doing things technically sort of from a director's standpoint, but I was also having to play this character and sort of just kind of get myself into an emotional place, a vulnerable place in order to just really tell the story and interact with the character on screen. Here I was really like in it, and I kind of understood what was happening, but also being open to like just kind of like the truth of the moment and the truth of the scenes. And that's where I felt like there was a breakthrough, that I did something that was outside of my comfort zone. I did something that challenged myself. And I think that really, directors who have like sort of acting experience or who can act are really well equipped to deal with sort of that kind of storytelling, or just like narrative storytelling. I had to make like a lot of mistakes before that, which is why I never really considered myself a director. And I think you really have to kind of not be afraid to fail. I think these days, everything looks so polished and everything kind of looks slick, and you can kind of get away with making really great images. But I think here it's really not about failing in terms of like how something looks, but it's more about, did you spend enough time to tell the story that you want to tell, or like what are you really saying? And I think that comes down to having a perspective, and that's something that I think over the years I've been able to gain, just kind of getting older and having different life experiences and traveling and that kind of thing. So I think it was really having a perspective and being able to kind of tell these stories and create these worlds and create characters that really feel believable. And that's kind of like something that is important for young filmmakers to think about, having a perspective. What are you really trying to say? If you strip away all, the bells and whistles and the fancy cameras and the fancy lighting and the fancy color grading, what do you have? Is it still interesting? Can you tell somebody and keep them captivated if you do like an elevator pitch, or you're like just talking to them in a conversation? And so that really is what I think something that I kind of learned as I was going along. It's not something that I was taught because I didn't go to film school, but it's something that, looking back on, having a perspective was really, really important. Another thing to think about on your journey to become a director is understand your value. And I think that's really important. I think when you start off, it's really, you're young and you don't really have like a whole lot of responsibilities. You don't have a family yet, or you don't have kids, or things like that can kind of like maybe make the creative process a little bit trickier. But I think definitely like throw yourself into a lot of different projects, work with a lot of different people, and you're going to probably have to do that for free for a long time. But at some point, you have to really understand your value, and it comes down to like, are you developing yourself professionally as you're sort of going along and going from project to project? And you don't want to be stuck in this like rut where you're just like in this endless loop where you sort of hit your creative ceiling and it's not exciting for you anymore. The worst thing that I think I've always witnessed is people on set who don't really want to be there. Now, video production and filmmaking is actually really fun. It's a lot of work, but it's actually really fun compared to, other industries. And it always kind of like bums me out when somebody is on set and clearly they're unhappy because maybe this is something that they've just like been doing over and over, or they feel like they've hit their creative peak, or they're just unhappy in their role. And so like it doesn't really benefit anyone when you sort of have that attitude that you just don't want to be there. Do something else. It's not really helpful. So it's important to, when you get to that point where you feel like your value is not being understood, or maybe you're just feeling undervalued, you got to move on. And whether that's like increasing your rate, or just jumping into a different project, or challenging yourself into a different role, then maybe that's what you got to do. And that's really something that I did when I felt like I hit that creative ceiling in music videos. I wanted to challenge myself, which is why I went into the tech industry, and I moved to Michigan, and I started working with Duo and all the startup companies in the area, because it was just about like, well, I'm feeling undervalued. I want to challenge myself. So that's kind of what I did as a director. So I hope some of that was helpful. Again, I do believe anybody can direct, just like I think anybody can act. But you do have to have some understanding of the craft, obviously, and some of the principles that I just mentioned. So if you have any questions or comments, definitely leave them in the comment section below at runplayback.com. Peace.